Hello, podcast listeners. We know podcasts are a great way to catch up on a program that you may have missed on KSJE, and it's provided as a free service of this radio station. But you know, KSJE is now listener-supported, and so while you enjoy this podcast, we hope that you'll also take some time to join KSJE. Become a member today. It's quite easy to do. Just go to our website at ksje.com/support and pick the level of support that best matches your budget. Thanks again for listening. Here's your podcast. Eleven minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Wednesday morning, the 20th day of April, 2022. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin. Thanks for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM over the air, of course, here in San Juan County, New Mexico, everywhere else on the planet from our website, ksje.com. And we welcome our viewers because this is a community-supported visual radio station. So welcome our viewers who are watching the video streaming live this morning on the KSJE Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and our Twitter account. We're glad that you were with us this morning, everybody, because guess who else is with us? One and only Mayor of Farmington, Nate Duckett, is my guest this morning. He'll be joining me in the next few moments, so do stay tuned for that. Then coming up later on this hour, Ron Price is here with another great lesson about life in the sandbox. Ron will explain why the term forgive and forget is pretty impossible to accomplish, so we'll learn more about that later on this hour on KSJE. Next hour, of course, Mick Hess will take us roving with the arts. It is our weekday classical music program. Mick is playing selections from Romeo and Juliet from the great Prokofiev. That's coming up today, 9:06 on KSJE. And that takes us to 10:30, and right on Four Corners, our local and regional author program. Tracy Hales-Vass is beginning a series on banned books this week, and so her first guest is the one and only Amy Henkenius from Amy's Bookcase, the local bookstore in town. She'll be talking about banned books today on Right on Four Corners at 10:30 on KSJE. Don't forget, you can also connect with us on our Instagram page in addition to Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. And if you're a podcast person, we've got you covered there too. You can subscribe for free to KSJE Podcasts wherever you listen to podcasts, places like iTunes and Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts and Pandora. Subscribe and take us with you. Maybe discover another program you may have missed from KSJE in your travels. Outside our studios this morning, sunshine on this Wednesday morning, 58 degrees in Farmington. We are expecting a mostly sunny day and less winds today. That's a good thing. 76 for a high this afternoon, clear and 44 tonight. Mostly sunny and warmer tomorrow with a high of 79 on Thursday. Winds again and cooler weather on Friday with a high of 69. Then sunny on Saturday with a high near 60. Sunshine and 61 on Sunday. Back up to 70 on Monday and maybe hitting 80 and mid-80s by the middle of next week. Well, let me turn to my guest who is here with me this morning. We welcome him back to KSJE. Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett. Mayor Duckett, welcome back.
Scott, always a pleasure to be here with you and your viewers and your listeners.
That's right. Yeah.
We're multidimensional, my friend.
We are. That's true. That's true. I mean, and you're a radio host, so you have the listener part.
But, I got the listener part. But, well, at least I hope there's some listeners out there.
I think there are.
I hear some.
I think there are.
Yeah.
But it's great to have you here so people can see us and hear us. So
it's great to be back.
Things are going well in the city, you're telling me before we came on the air, which is always good to hear.
Well, there's a lot of energy right now. I don't know if anybody's been out on like a Wednesday afternoon, but it's a pretty busy Main Street happening here.
I'm starting to complain about traffic again,
right.
And so the city manager always yells at me and says, "Those are shoppers, Scott. Don't complain about those people that are in town."
Money. That's right. They're spending money.
That's right.
So no, things are good right now. Year to date, Scott, through January, just to give your viewers, listeners, kind of an update. We're 18% up to our budget for gross receipts tax.
Okay.
A lot of that has to do with kind of I would say the federal push for stimulus dollars that have been infused in all of our communities. Also, they've added online sales tax to
the state
local.
Has done that.
Yep, state has done that. So they are now providing those taxes to our local tax base, which is good. But it's important for people to know, even at 18% up, because of the issues of hold harmless, which dealt with the removal of groceries and medicine from the tax base back in 2000.
A while ago. It's been several years, right?
Mm-hmm. And then they came back and said, look, we want that money back as a state. So now we have to pay back $4.5 million this next year. So that'll get cut down a little bit, but it gives us a little bit of cushion in my mind to get through some kind of big hairy goals we need to get through and take care of some really some maintenance issues as well.
Okay, good to know. You were telling me that these numbers look closer to maybe where the city was revenue-wise even prior to the 2008 recession.
Right. So we've used the 2008 as kind of the peak of what gross receipts taxes collected here in the city were, and since that time, it's just kind of been this downtick and then some upticks built in there. But we believe that this year we may reach that pinnacle again. So that bodes well for our local economy, local businesses, and certainly what we're seeing. And if you speak to a realtor today, or if you spoke to them at the end of last year, they had a banner year last year.
They're too busy. I can't speak to any of them. They never return my calls.
5 years ago, the market was flooded with houses, and now we're in a position where people are buying those houses sight unseen. Fortunately, there is all the virtual tours you can now take of people's homes, but we're seeing a lot of that. People buying using cash, people asking, $30,000, $40,000 over asking price to get those houses secured. Just an interesting time to be in this marketplace, and I don't think Farmington's the only place that's seeing it, but it's certainly a special moment, I believe, for our city.
Right, and I don't know if we were expecting that either. I don't
think we were. I mean, I think if we go back to 2014, 2015, when we started doing the kind of the rebranding of who we are, who we wanted to be, of course, led by our friend Tony Stinson at the CVB. That was kind of the idea, like, hey, let's build this together. Let's come up with who we want to be, and let's make it an energized message that we could send out, broadly. And I really believe that Jolt Your Journey message, and the fact that we believe that this is a place where active families can thrive. I mean, that sort of thing is resonating with a lot of folks, and we're getting a lot of retirees. There's not a week that goes by that I'm not hearing about a retiree of some sort who's moved here from somewhere else because of the Four Seasons. Because of the low tax and low cost of living, low cost of housing. And so it's definitely, I think the message is getting out there.
Right. Well, and I think, anyone in marketing probably will tell us that that's consistent and repetitive messaging is really important. And that's what we're seeing, I think, too.
Well, I think what was great about the way we went about this, kind of the rebranding, was that we wanted to focus on how do we change internally? How do we get our attitude in the right place where we could actually have a conversation with people who are coming to visit Farmington, and they ask the question like, why should I be here? What is there to do here? What's special about your community? And I believe now we know more than ever what those special attributes are, and because of that, it's much easier for everybody to speak about it. The A2D program that the Convention and Visitors Bureau puts on, that's a customer service program,
right,
where they infuse in there all the messaging and the great things that are happening in our area to create ambassadors. And when you're looking at service industry jobs, hospitality jobs, it's really critical that those individuals have that top-of-mind attitude or knowledge of what needs to be shared. So I think that's gone a long way. And then, of course, just the outreach. We've had some pretty amazing articles written about Farmington and the energy that's going on here. And I think that's going to continue to resonate. We've got a Viewpoint with Dennis Quaid's series coming out on PBS. That'll be here. I think it's going to be mid-spring, late spring. That's going to bring some good attention to what's happening here in our area. There's an article coming out in Business Mag online, again talking about things that are happening here in our area. And I think if you look at some of the events that are now coming back, and you've got Riverfest coming around the corner. You're going to have all the great events happening in September, October. That we just it's the best time of year to be here, of course. But we're also going to add a balloon festival. We're looking to do an annual balloon festival again, bringing that back to Farmington. And we'll see that sometime, I believe, late September. Okay.
Some of us old-timers might remember the old balloon rallies in Farmington back in the day, so nice to see them back.
Yeah, I mean, I remember driving to high school, and you'd see the balloons flying around. And so, I think it's good to tie into ballooning in New Mexico, of course, is historic. I mean, this is kind of what we're known for. It's on the license plates, or it was.
Yeah. Right.
And we've got the museum in Albuquerque, so I think it's good for us to find a way to tie into those.
Very good. Well, things. And I wanted to point out too that I think important with all these other things, the growth, the tourists, the retirees, and things like that, is the investment that the city has made in certain key areas, and one we're going to talk about in depth in just a moment. But the Aquatic Center, certainly the Brookside Bay, Farmington Lake.
Sure.
Some of these things, again, that took some city money to kind of build these amenities, and then, as was told to me, as the city was investing these substantial amounts of money, that these will be attractions, and then the folks will come. They might stay an extra night in a hotel. They may come here to shop, but stay, take the kids out to the lake or the pool, and then spend a little more time and spend a little more money, and that would help everybody as the rising tide raises all boats, or whatever that
No,
that phrase might be. But those things, I think, are part of what you're talking about, and the city has made some strategic investments downtown also to then help businesses and others appreciate what we have.
Absolutely. I think that's the goal, is that public-private partnership in creating that canvas and putting in those types of amenities that are attractions so that the local businesses can thrive from the people that are coming in. The Convention and Visitors Bureau did a report to us this week at City Council. The key thing I took away from that is in 2015, 14, the average stay nights here of somebody coming to town was like 1.2 nights. It's now 3.3. So we're seeing that increase because there are those additional things for people to do. You mentioned Bistye Bay, but also Farmington Lake.
Yeah.
Farmington Lake's become a real jewel here in the area. We've created 13 new kind of beachheads, so to speak, on the north and west sides of that area, and a mile-and-a-half long trail that goes around it. Because that's what people want, and they want to be outdoors in this area. I'm really, one of the things that the pandemic being the pandemic, one of the good things that came out of it is that restaurateurs decided, look, all right, if we're going to be forced to go outside, then we should spend some money and create some nice outdoor seating areas. And I think you've seen a lot of that investment from those
Definitely.
restaurants to put people outside, because it's too beautiful not to be out there.
Right. Well, and the climate here, I mean, you can do that.
Yeah.
7-8 months of the year,
Exactly.
Mostly, But yeah, there you go. The other thing that we haven't mentioned that I want to, and the work is going on as we speak, is Pinyon Hills Golf Course. Major investment and renovations over there.
Major renovations. So, between $9 and $10 million to go in. Of course, Scott, the irrigation system was the original irrigation system. We were seeing line breaks for years, and if you talk to the season pass holders out there, I was receiving emails, since 2014, like, hey, you guys better do something because you're fixing to lose the course. So council really appreciate their leadership in this and deciding that Pinyon Hills, constantly ranked in the top 10 of municipal golf courses in the nation, had a write-up last year as a potential replacement golf course for a PGA event, which is a big, hairy, audacious goal, but it just speaks to those kind of the things that people know about Farmington. Pinyon's one of those things. Cognac World Series, another one of those things. And investing in that to put in new irrigation systems, new cart paths, new bunkers with new bunker sand, adding some additional practice range areas. We're going to do new facades on the buildings, and Scott, it's going to be really beautiful. I'm excited for people to get out there. And we were hoping for July 1, but in the world that we're living in right now with supply chain issues, it's we're looking at July 15th. So just let's be patient. We've got Riverview Golf Course out in Kirtland,
right?
Golf course. We've got, of course, Civitan.
You putt around Civitan,
yeah,
right?
Civitan
Sure.
still, and and of course you're going to expect to see this, but Civitan numbers are way up.
Get to know someone at the country club.
Yeah,
Yeah,
become a country club member.
Right, sir. There you go. But yeah,
So,
but I think folks are excited about the end results of this project. I know it takes time to do it, and no one ever likes that. But it's underway, and that's an important thing.
We just sent out a report just letting people know where it was at right now, kind of the midpoint. And I think really good information in that report. You can see it online at farmingtonnm.org, or excuse me, it would be at fmtn.org. Right.
The city's website.
City's website.
Got it.
Yeah.
But there you go. Very good.
Yeah.
Another project I wanted to ask you about that's been long talked about is the Pinyon Hills Bridge. This would then continue Pinyon Hills Boulevard from where it ends at East Main Street and continue it south, crossing the Animas River and going up onto Crouch Mesa into the county, and kind of linking up with Andrea Drive to go then down up to US 64, as I remember, the original plan.
That's the layout.
From years and years ago.
Sure.
But the price tag was pretty hefty, and so it's just been kind of on the planning stages and the drawing board for quite a while, but you're telling me it's moving from the drawing board to maybe some shovels in the ground soon.
So we had an opportunity last year with Representative Rod Montoya, who brought the NMDOT secretary and deputy secretary up to Farmington, and we gave a presentation on that project, as well as improvements needed to 516 between Farmington and Aztec, as well as the road from Aztec to Navajo Dam.
Mm-hmm.
And they came out of that basically telling us in that meeting, look, we're really excited about this regional project for Pinyon Hills Bridge. We want to try and help you guys. Let's see what we can do. Well, again, with that money that's been rolled out from the federal government, there is money that's directed directly towards the improvement of roadways. And because this is a regional project, very attractive, and we've managed to receive the letter from the state stating it's going to be funded, we're going to get it done. So we're now in the permitting process, again, all the permits were done for all of this, by the way. All the property's been purchased. The right-of-ways have all been there for years. But now we have to kind of make sure all those
Bring them up to date.
Permits are brought back up to date. And I'm anticipating, it's probably a 12-month process to get all that done, and maybe it's 24 months before we see, some roadways start going in there. But again, this has been, when Tom Taylor was mayor, this project was brought up. And Tom will tell you, because he sat on the call with us and the NMDOT secretary, and said it may be one of my biggest failures as mayor, because at that time it was about a $2.6 million project, as opposed to now, which is a $40 million project.
Yikes.
So that price tag is, that was the reason why we couldn't do it ourselves. But I'm excited that now it's the right place, right time, and we're going to get the funding to get it done.
That's very exciting. I remember when it was $25 million, so that's how old I am.
Which was only 4 years ago.
Right, right. But significant. And this is a major, and there's been studies about the traffic, and I mean, it would be another crossing of the river, and so that would be the only one between Browning Parkway and Flora Vista.
Right.
Would be this extra river crossing, and maybe eliminate some of the traffic on East Main, a little bit, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that may be one of the side effects of that going in there.
It's not why it's being done.
No, I mean, the connectivity from the top of Crouch Mesa.
Right.
Rob Mays is always famous as saying, Crouch Mesa in and of itself is the second biggest city in San Juan County, because of all the population.
A lot of people live up there. That's right.
It's just going to give them better access directly into the city, and going across the county. I think it's going to make commutes much easier. I personally, driving back from Albuquerque, driving to Albuquerque, I'm going to enjoy crossing there as opposed to going around.
Yeah, well, if you live on the east side of town, that would make sense. And so this is happening after years and years of planning. You've got the letter, and so that's an important and significant development, I think.
It's on its way. It's a big win for our area.
And expensive for sure, but exciting. I want to ask you always about Enchant Energy and their project. The idea, of course, to save the San Juan generating station. P&M still planning to leave sometime maybe later this summer than they were originally planning, because they wanted to keep the power on for their customers in other parts of the state. But Enchant still kind of waiting in the wings, I guess, for that to happen, to be able to move on with their project. Is that where we are?
Well, I think it'd be good for everybody to understand these guys are working every day. And when I say these guys, I mean Enchant. They're working every day. They've just hired a CFO. They've just hired a vice president. And we had a great meeting with the new vice president. He brings 30+ years of experience working for utilities all across the western United States. Particularly has some extensive knowledge of the carbon capture world. And when you bring in those types of those assets, those kind of players into this game, it's going to push this forward. Intech, of course, now on the board. They've made investments. We've got companies that are sitting there waiting for the power, because we need power. I mean, we need firm power. No replacement power has hit the ground yet for any of the megawatts that are going to be lost when they close, or if they close, right? So we want to keep that open. P&M has said we agree. They're in for another 3 months through September at least, because they don't want to have blackouts and brownouts here in New Mexico. But for our locals to understand, this is not just about jobs, even though that's the key component of these are economic-based jobs that create service jobs. I mean, it's a trickle-down effect. But as ratepayers go, those 43 megawatts that we have in that facility and the undepreciated assets, which are tens of millions of dollars that are still sitting in there that we've already paid for, if we have to close down that facility and walk away, we're looking at some rate increases that are going to happen across our service district. Those are things that we don't want to have to do. So maintaining the operations there continues to provide low-cost electricity power across 1,700 square miles, which is invaluable.
Right. Now, people may be a bit confused because P&M, San Juan Generating Station, known as a P&M power plant, but the city of Farmington, the Farmington Electric Utility, does have a share of that facility. And
there's 5 owners in there right now.
And so the city becomes kind of the de facto owner, I guess, when P&M does decide they're going to leave.
So as part of our ownership contract, the opportunity to extend the life of the plant was provided to all the owners. This was 2018. We said, look, we want to see the plant extended. We're going to try and find new solutions for how to utilize this facility. And within that contract, that transaction essentially passes that on to the city. And with our agreement with Enchant Energy, we would then simultaneously pass ownership on 95% ownership to Enchant Energy.
Right. That's what's in place right now.
That's what's in place.
And gotcha. And so so that's what everyone's kind of watching for. We've had Hank Adair on this program talking about the summer power concerns that P&M had, And he seemed to make it sound like Farmington does not have the same concerns maybe that P&M has for their service area, the brownouts and things like that. It seems like the city is in pretty good shape for power supplies in this crazy changing marketplace of energy.
We do feel good about where we're at right now. The big concern for us is, of course, we're going to have to purchase power for a period of time. The costs of energy have gone up. Certainly in the summertime, we see those. Last year, I mean, there was months that was over $200 per megawatt hour. In perspective, right now we're paying about $46 per megawatt. So it's a big jump in price. Of course, that has to get passed on to ratepayers. We don't want to be in that position, which is why we want to be able to control our own destiny in this situation and maintain the operation of that facility. Of course, we have Plan B. I mean, we're not just sitting there putting all the eggs in one basket. We understand that within our integrated resource plan, which is going to kind of our portfolio for where our energy, our power comes from, we're looking at opportunities to add additional, natural gas powered facilities as well. I'm sure solar is also in that IRP. Those are things that they're working on. But we're open to any and all. We just want to make sure that we maintain what one of my PUC commissioners made mention of the other day. We want to be RAD. We want to be reliable. We want to be affordable. We want to be dependable. And we want to be durable. And I think those are the four components that make a good electric utility company. So.
Right, understood. And that's some of the things that come into play when you start talking about adding renewables and things like that, because
Sure.
I as you have told me and others have told me, it's great when the sun's out and the wind's blowing and things along that line.
Absolutely.
But then when those things aren't happening and people still want to turn on their air conditioner in the summer or their heat in the winter or whatever the case may be,
Right.
then what do you do? And that's where some of this other standby power or other types of power come into play.
Absolutely.
And that's where we are. So,
Yes, sir. Just look what's happening over in Europe right now. If you look at the country of Germany, Germany's paying 3 times as much for power as what the United States does. And now their sole supplier of natural gas, or one of their major suppliers of natural gas, is in the midst of a land war in Europe.
Right.
And so now, of course, they're dealing with rationing natural gas. Energy independence is critical. It's important for the defense and for the safety of our country. And I think we sit in a place where we can provide that, and we want to do so.
Right. Just one more question about
Sure.
Enchant, and we'll move on from that. But there's still a lot of critics out there that say, this plan, it's really great on paper, but it's really, there's a lot of issues, a lot of roadblocks to maybe making this go, and a lot of folks don't know if this is going to really ever happen. So,
Sure.
and I know you hear that as well. What's your message to some of those critics out there that just
Well,
say?
I always hear it from you, so I know
Do you
that
always hear
I
it
can
from
always
me?
count on the question from you, Scott.
Okay.
What I would say is this: the investment that the city of Farmington has put us in a position where we have limited risk. So we are putting in dollars when it comes to legal fees and those things to see this transaction through, but the payoff is way higher than the cost of us trying to fight for it. When we're talking about 1,600 economic-based jobs, these are $100,000 a year jobs. The impact that it has to CCSD school district, we have to be really honest with ourselves about that. This is a situation where we recognize that we want to save the day, so to speak. We want to keep those people active. We want to keep those families here. We don't want to see them have to leave our state because there's not a lot of places for them to go with those types of skill sets here in New Mexico. And those are the conversations that we had in 2018 with our legislative body. They're like, well, it's just simple. We're going to give you money to retrain this workforce. And I asked the question, what would you like us to retrain them to do? And there's no answer to that because there's not similar other industries here in the state. It's different in New York. It'd be different in California. It's different in places where they have a more robust, built-up, private invested economy, as opposed to a state that's only 2.1 million people, and really energy drives everything that happens here in government. Mm-hmm. So, look, if it happens, then we win. If it doesn't happen, then we're still in the same place where we were before, and we're gonna adapt and we're gonna overcome, and those things will happen. But to take the time and energy to go in this with Enchant, who is carrying the majority of all this liability and responsibility in this transaction, it's worth it to us. So
I hear you.
There you go.
And I understand the job comment. I think that makes a lot of sense because you're right. There are not a lot of other jobs that are equal to what these folks are doing in pay and what they're getting to support their families. And I get that you just can't retrain someone from a coal mine job to be a solar panel installer and expect them to make the same amount of money
Right.
and be able to support their families.
Well, and-
totally understand that.
Right. And I would say this. We just recently did our rate, our most recent cost of service study. For the next 4 years, this kind of sets the tone for what our rates will look like for your electric power at your house, and we've made some commitments to provide what they call net metering on a 30-day true-up to those individuals who have solar panels on the roof. This is what they asked for. We were told repeatedly at these meetings that if we gave them the 30-day true-up, that it was going to provide more jobs and we would see the local economy grow with renewable energy jobs. So we've done that part. I'm excited to see the new jobs come into town, and I'm hopeful that that happens.
Got you. And these are for folks who choose to maybe add solar to their homes or businesses,
Yes,
right? And then
correct.
but still remain on the grid.
They're on the grid. They sell back power that they're not using for their own uses. We pay them. It's 3.5 cents. It's what we call the avoided cost. It's what it costs us to buy power off the line, and so they're able to, take care of the cost for their electricity, provide electricity to the grid when the sun's out and is needed. And I'm, like I said, I'm excited. All forms of energy we're in the game for, and we want to be supportive of. But when you're talking about 43 megawatts at a plant with low cost, reliable power, those things are too important to us to just let go. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. Right.
Well, and that's been your message from the very beginning, I think, was really thinking about those jobs, those families, and what that would mean to the greater economy if those folks aren't here, those jobs aren't here anymore. And
low-cost power. I mean, low-cost power.
Right. Got it. We're almost out of time, Mr. Mayor.
Really?
Yeah, we are. I'm sorry. I know.
Can we do a second part of this show?
We could.
Look at this list. I've got all these things.
Did I not get through half of your list? I'm sorry about that.
I think we got to 3 things, Scott.
3 things. Well, that's all right. Well, then we'll have you back. See, that's how that'll work.
Always happy to
come
back.
We will have you back. But I do know that there are politics, of course. You're the mayor, so you have to be involved in politics from time to time, every 4 years.
Time to time.
Yeah. What are your plans this year? Are you planning to step up again?
Well, we opted into the state's new election laws. So that pushes our election for districts 3 and 4 and mayor to November of next year.
Of next year?
Next year.
Oh, pardon me.
So they moved it to odd number years.
Okay.
The state wanted to have election day on the same November day every year.
Right.
So we got moved to the odd number years. So, we're sitting here in April of 2022, November of 23. So, I mean, the reality is this. There's still a lot of work to be done. I'm excited with the team that we're working with right now, not just at the city, but the CVB, the county, the college, the hospital. I mean, we're all rowing in the same direction, and I'm excited to be a part of it, and I plan on running again, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
That's official.
You heard it here first.
Is it official?
Well, this is the Michlin show. This is where you say things like this, right?
I guess it is. Well, I asked the question, you gave me an answer, so that's how it works.
That's how it works.
All right. Mayor Duckett, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it very
Scott.
much.
Thank you for your time.
Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett, my guest this morning here on KSJE. Did you enjoy that podcast? We hope that you did. And if you did, share it with your friends. And if you really want to keep podcasts like this coming, please support KSJE. You can do it easily online at ksje.com.